Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us again for another episode of Pursuit of Purpose. I'm Rob.
I'm Chuck.
And today we have with us a very special guest. I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell you guys a little bit about him.
Well, my name is Troy Soileau. I'm an attorney in Lumberton. I've been practicing for about 26 years. I grew up in Lumberton. I'm married, have 2 children. They're grown, of course. And that's pretty much sums it up.
What year were you married, Troy?
1987. See, you tried to get me on that.
No, I was very careful. That's actually a man protecting question. See, we've
Okay.
learned through.
No, I'm sorry. 1985. I'm sorry. I was thinking of my daughter's birth.
The gotcha question would have been, how long have you been married?
Okay.
That's the gotcha question. Most of us of the male species can remember the year in which we were incarcerated. Married. But that's usually our strong suit is remembering.
That's
that
Robbie
moment.
Martin.
Yeah,
Lives in Lumberton, Texas.
But anyway, so what year was it? 85? Did you say?
85.
85. So
Yeah.
that's a strong marriage.
Yeah, we met in high school. She went to Kelly. I went to Lumberton, and we both were involved in this youth organization. And we met at a dance, and I asked her out, and here we are all these years later.
Her parents let private school girls fraternize with public school boys, or was this?
Well, I don't know if I don't know what happened privately when she told them, but I think I've just about got them convinced it's going to be okay.
That it's going to make it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right. So that's pretty good accomplishment for you to be an attorney and to be married that long.
Well, now I'm going to take exception to that. I feel like I need to, defend all of my brethren in the law and sisters. I know a lot of people, and I don't think necessarily that people that are lawyers have a higher divorce rate than any other profession.
Oh no, I didn't think so either.
Okay.
No, not at all. I know that as an attorney, you have to devote quite a bit of yourself to your practice to get it started, get it going, and get it profitable.
It's very taxing.
Yes.
It's very taxing.
Very taxing on a relationship as well as on yourself.
That's right.
So does she participate in your profession? Or is she in her own thing? Or
She is. She's an X-ray technician at St. Elizabeth. Has been there for 30-something years,
Nice.
and of course, there's a attorney-client privilege when you go and hire an attorney, right? And so, and there's also the HIPAA laws about what she does. So, other than I've got to pay the rent today, things like that, we have very little, if any, conversation about the what I do for a living or what she does. So if I'm in trial, of course, that's public, we may discuss some aspects of what happened during the day. Right. So I guess to answer your question, I don't think that we participate as much as maybe you guys would, with the inner workings of the.
But she built her own career. And
That's right. That's right.
That's good.
She's done very well. That's right.
Very good.
That is good.
So y'all met in high school.
We did.
So tell me about your childhood. Tell me what that was like. You grew up in Lumberton?
Right.
What was it like in your home as a child? Tell me about your siblings, your parents, all that kind of stuff.
Well, I started school in Baytown, and I guess the first grade in Baytown, I went to Travis Elementary, and then we moved to Tarkington. Back then, people called it Tarkington Prairie.
Yeah, I've heard that many times.
Little small school. And when I was in the 4th grade, we moved to Lumberton, and I've stayed there ever since. And, of course, Lumberton is home, even though I've lived in these other places. When I was in law school and going off to school, Lumberton was always home, and grew up. And my mother was a secretary, honorable work, and worked hard.
Secretary for who?
She worked mainly for doctors.
Okay.
And I'm not exactly sure what all she did, but had a long career doing that. My father was a pipe fitter, union pipe fitter out of 195. And then later in life, he went to work for the John Gray Institute in some worker relocation program.
Yeah.
And then while he was doing that, he started a print shop and had a very successful print shop here in Beaumont for a number of years.
Yeah.
And people may remember Soileau Printing, and did a lot of campaign stuff. Really did a lot of political stuff out of that office.
So that print shop, even though it's not still around now in its same form, did it get sold and converted to something else, or did it just function?
It was sold. I'm not sure what they did. I think the sign's still on the old building over there on Orange Street, but I'm not sure that the actual printing business is still intact.
Yeah.
So how many siblings did you grow up with?
I have two. I have my older brother, Curtis, and my older sister, Kim. And what's interesting, my brother's an attorney. Matter of fact, he's in the same building.
Okay.
And my sister married a guy that went to law school, and he's an attorney here in town. So
got a lot of what your parents did to y'all as children, but they taught you to love the law, and love people that love the law.
Well, I don't really know. People have asked me that all the time. The only thing that I can remember, Robbie, is when I was little, there was a show on TV about this lawyer, and I believe it was New York City, and we could probably look it up online somewhere and find it, but he was just out of law school, and what I remember, and he was always fighting those, cases for the cause, and for some reason that just hit me.
A lawyer was a hero in your childhood. You saw him, saw a lawyer as a hero.
Yeah. And so as I grew up, things I noticed, just growing up, that the cause always interests me. Reading about the cause, more so than
absolutely
there's
anything else.
We talk to a lot of folks as coaches in different professions, and every now and then people hint at the word I'm about to use, which is they have found something where they can compete. They can compete in medicine, or they can compete as a counselor, and even in law, especially in trial law, that's what you do. You trial it. Well, it's a competition, and all the things all the research and all the other things that go into it. I can see where that would really be, just fire you up, and make it be real attractive.
Right.
I don't know what law your other relatives are in, but whatever it is, there's a version of it somewhere.
Well, to kind of expand on what I was telling you is that my parents, neither one had a college degree, but both of them were extremely intelligent. And I've talked to people that they knew back in high school, still people that are around, and they would tell me how smart one or the other was, or they had this certain ability to understand, and but they both of them had situations that in life, their family and the kids come along and they were not able to go to college. Thank God for the Stafford loans and all the things that they do now for kids that can go to college, that their families can't afford it. Because it's really changed the fabric of America. I mean, it really has.
Absolutely.
To where college can be affordable. But they always stressed upon me, and it kind of aggravated me. But I guess me and my brother and sister is that school did not end with a high school diploma.
Right.
I'm talking about from 5 or 6. It was like when you go to college. not if you're going to go to college. When you go to college,
Right.
when you're in college, when you finish college.
It was a foregone conclusion.
And I remember graduation night vividly, and people, high five, I'm going to go to work and and I'm sitting there going, dadgum, I got a lot more school to go. And I knew also that I wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay.
So, and my brother's 3 years older than me. He was already, close to going to law school and so I knew what I had to do. But I'm convinced that my parents, because both of them just put it in our mind that no matter what, there was going to be a way that all three of us were going to go to college and get an education. Right. And we did.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
We did.
Very much so.
Pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
So what age did you make the decision that this is what you want to be as an attorney?
I don't know. All I know is that medicine didn't interest me. I found things, I like to build forts and stuff, when I was a little kid, but nothing really just stuck out that, this is what I want to do long term. I just know that I thought I was going to be a lawyer, and somewhere along 15 or 16, I was just like, okay, this is what we got to do in order to be able to continue what I enjoy. Right. I enjoyed politics. Like I said, I enjoyed hearing about, the struggles and, things that were happening in society and, trying to, I wouldn't say necessarily fight for the cause, but I hope I'm being clear enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
That I just knew somewhere around high school age that this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
Now, I will say this, that I never really 100% was comfortable that, yes, I could do it. I just knew that I was going to start down that path,
So you didn't have the highest confidence in the world, but you were committed.
Well, there was a number of things, by the time I was, a senior, my wife and I had committed, and were engaged and, didn't know where that was going to go. Even though they have all these programs, didn't know if I could afford it, didn't know, and I guess, Robbie, along the lines of what you're saying, I didn't know intellectually whether I could do it, but, I tell people that the key to being a lawyer is you don't have to necessarily be smart. You have to be, pretty stupid, not know when to stop.
Stubborn.
If you just don't stop, you'll get there,
Right. So you're the youngest of three siblings.
Okay.
And all three of you are successful to whatever degree.
More so than me, I would imagine.
Stop it. But there's a fascinating question that's underlying this. What was discipline like when you were a child? In your young childhood and up into adolescence? What was that like?
Robbie, I'm writing a novel that's a historical fiction of East Texas.
Okay.
And my goal in that novel is to say this story could have happened in Athens or in Beaumont or in Tyler, that it's kind of, we kind of have a uniform existence, I think, in East Texas, probably in other parts of the country too.
Yeah, likely.
And so I would tell you this, that all of our fathers were partially raised by, John Wayne. And so, discipline was, you didn't backtalk your mother. And thank goodness I never had to experience the wrath of what happens if you backtalk your mother. I just didn't do it. Right. I just knew that it, and I joke and I tell people one of these days, I've never, and people laugh and they go, no way when they know me, but I've never smoked marijuana in my life. Right. But I want to see what all my clients dig about it, right? And I'm thinking that if I could ever get Snoop Dogg and Willie Nelson together, and maybe Cat Williams,
it'd be worth it.
Then I would try it. If
you talk about
a monumental
of a party, I mean, that's historic.
If you're going to do it, you might as well do it right.
This research. So
Right.
Yeah.
so
Right. It would be for scientific
Yeah,
purposes.
right.
Yeah, because I need to write about all these.
That's right.
Social studies.
But
But
I tell people that one of the reasons, I mean, it was around.
Yeah.
Now it was a lot different in the 70s.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that it wasn't like, really, really prevalent and everybody did it. It was no big deal. And, like it is today. And I make no judgment, by the way. Let me say that very clear. I make no judgment as to, the country's morals have dropped or anything. I'm just saying it wasn't as prevalent as today in small communities. And, but getting back to the discipline question that you had, I was always scared that Eldon was going to jump out of the weeds somewhere, and I could just see me grabbing a joint and taking, and life ending in a cruel death, And so I tell people that's the key that kept me from smoking dope.
The big question is, and
fear of it all.
Yeah,
I point this question at a lot of people specifically, but did you receive corporal punishment? Did you and your siblings get whoopings? I mean, I know I did growing up.
And I don't know who started this, and whoever started it should have had their butt kicked all over Texas. But my mother and father prescribed to the philosophy that when one went down, we all went down.
Oh, nice.
It was like, wait, I didn't do nothing. Well,
don't matter. You're part of the group.
We didn't spank you for that other.
Yeah, you got away with something we don't know about.
Yeah.
So you're getting this one.
Yeah. We buy all of y'all Christmas presents equally. We're going to spank you all equally.
Nice.
But
that helps all of you keep each other in line too. So you create this culture of accountability.
That's right.
Like, no, you ain't screwing up because we all get it if you do.
I love it. So your parents subscribe to that equal opportunity butt kick.
That's right. That's right.
That's right. Discriminate people.
That's right. And
that's awesome.
But I can't ever think of a time where I thought this is just so unjust and it's just so awful and all that. Because truth is, I probably screwed up somewhere and they didn't catch me, and so okay,
there's always Christmas to put it back in balance.
That's right. I atoned for my sins, and okay, start over.
Oh man, those red rear end confessionals or something else.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So how did you end up in the college that you went to? What college did you attend?
Well, I went to Lamar, and
what was your undergraduate there?
I got an associate's just because I wanted to get the degree while I was there. I got an associate's in law enforcement and a bachelor's in criminal justice. People say all the time, well, I had a minor,
Right.
I don't know if they really have minors and stuff. I think when I went to graduate, I could have chosen either a sociology degree or a criminal justice degree. I had enough hours in either one, I believe, but that was my degree, Lamar University. I chose that because, I didn't have the ability to go to Texas A&M. I'm not even sure that Texas or Texas A&M would have accepted me, right? So I just knew that financially, and with my situation with my now wife, that Lamar was the choice. Also at the time, at some point, I ran for city council in Lumberton and won. And so, there was no transfer to another school or anything. But I'm going to just tell you something. To anybody out there listening, go to a smaller college. And I'm not beating up on Texas or A&M or Harvard or anything else. But when you go to these smaller colleges like Lamar, your professors are actually there close to you. You can have conversations with them. And, it's not so, friends that you make for the rest of your life. And I still see people in Beaumont that I go, hey, I went to school with her. I went to college with him. And so I'm just so thankful I went to Lamar, and what a great college. I wish I could rattle off all the various things that Lamar is known for throughout the country. There's a lot of stuff.
They're big in engineering. I know
engineering. I think their art department, or there's Yeah, there's
Yeah,
a
that's
lot
right.
of stuff that they're known for. At one time, the criminal justice department, and I'm sure it's still there,
Yeah.
was ranked.
They have a good criminal justice
That
program.
was ranked really, really high.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So don't, when you're looking for colleges, don't scratch off Lamar. But my heart would have been at A&M just for the fun of it and just to, say giggle Maggies and go to the football games,
But there's something weird that happens to people, young people, when they're growing up. For whatever reason, there's this strange desire, instinct almost, to get away.
Mm-hmm.
To go adventure off somewhere in another town. So it's not necessarily that they're not wanting to go to Lamar because it's Lamar. They might want to go to wherever else because it's far away.
Yeah.
Well, my children went to school at University of Kentucky, and yeah, my daughter had a tryout with her cheerleading squad, and they were the number one in the country. And so instead of going to Texas or Auburn, where she probably would have, made the cheerleading team and might have could have got somewhat of a scholarship, she had the desire to be part of the best, right? And how do you squelch that with the child, right?
You don't.
And so we encouraged her to do it. Then after she was there a semester or two, then how do you tell a child the friends you've made, you need to come back, a little closer?
Mm-hmm.
My son went, but I'm gonna tell you something. My daughter and her husband and my grandchildren live outside of London right now. I believe right now they're on vacation somewhere in Europe. And they tell me these stories. Oh, we went to France, we went to here, we went to there. Wow. And it doesn't scare them at a young age, right?
Yeah.
My son lives in California, is moving, travel doesn't scare them.
Yeah,
and I think part of it is what you're talking about, moving off, to some other state.
Absolutely.
So there's value in that too.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. So through that young part of your life, first of all, we got to finish this. Where'd you graduate? Where'd you go to graduate school?
I went to law school at Texas Southern University in Houston. And if you ask me why I chose there, it was by elimination. I had applied to a number of schools, and I can still remember getting the rejection letters one by one. And, any graduate school is difficult to get into.
Yeah. And
they take a number of things into consideration, your grades in college, your LSAT scores. So I would get these rejection letters. And I remember I think I applied to everyone in Texas, and I think I might have applied to a couple out of state. And so I remember sitting on the porch swing and getting that acceptance letter. And the first thing that come to me was, and I believe there's a couple of schools still out there. I was like, they said, yes, they're taking a chance on me. I don't care what any other school says. They were the first ones. That was really what sold me on it. So you had
loyalty to them being the first.
I was like,
really cool.
Because I knew what the pain was of being rejected.
Yes.
And so I remember that moment sitting there holding that acceptance letter. And I still have it. I still have that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is.
I'm pretty sure I've seen that in a frame on your wall.
I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe
if it's
not
framed or not. But anyway, I had a lot of stuff framed.
So what was it like there at that graduate school? Tell me about that.
Well, I don't know if it's any different than anywhere else. I would say that just like my friends from Lamar that, 150 years ago, we still talk, we still get together, and, we used to talk about our infant children. Now we talk about our grandchildren, and, now we talk about retirement, but, you establish friendships. In professional schools, it just naturally gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
Right.
And so I would say that the class size would be akin to a high school class, right? And so you're going through the same struggles, difficult material. You're just thrown right in the middle of it, just study all the time. And then you form these relationships, right? That there's people that I hadn't talked to in 10 years or 15 years, but when we talk, it's like we just went fishing yesterday. The bonds that you create among your,
well, there is such a thing as struggle bond.
yeah,
And you see athletes that, we had that one, junior, senior year where we went all as far as we and all this kind of stuff. And years later, and I've had teams I coached both the school ball for a little bit. I run into kids to this day because we just, everything we had to go through to get to the level we were.
that's right.
And likewise in graduate school, a lot of my colleagues, they're colleagues now. They're in the area, because I went here to Lamar to grad school. So that's kind of cool. So yeah.
So you just form those bonds, and you do the best that you can, and you struggle together. And matter of fact, but we'll reserve that. But Judge Holmes here in Beaumont, I went to law school with him.
Oh, that's really
and and I could rattle off several people around, lawyers that we went to school together. And when we see each other in court, without saying anything, you can tell there's a bond.
Yeah.
That's
really awesome.
It is.
I love that.
Even though we may practice in different areas,
So how long have you been practicing law now?
I think 26 years, Rob.
26 years.
Okay.
That's amazing. So go ahead.
Did you drift toward a certain discipline of law that you prefer?
No, I just always knew that I was going to go back home. And I've been fortunate that my friends and neighbors and those people in the community have supported my firm. I don't think anyone else has been able to practice as long as I have, continuous with the law firm in Lumberton. And so now that it's bigger, there's some other firms there, right, that I'm sure that will be able to manage to make it. But when I first, it was much smaller, more difficult. But I just knew I wanted to go back home. And then so you just kind of find your way. I mean, little Johnny comes in and he got in trouble. And Susie says she needs a divorce, got married and shouldn't have got married. She needs a divorce, or she needs child support, or someone comes in and says, hey, I've got this problem. My siblings are trying to take all of mom and dad's, money from them, so you just kind of find your way,
Right.
And in some of those other areas, I don't want to discount that. The people that do personal injury, it takes a lot of business to support that sort of a firm. Right. Yeah. And to be specialized, and it just takes a lot of business.
Right. Sounds like you did a lot of personal and family, was generally speaking.
I did a lot of criminal law, and my very first case that was of any significance was a trial up in Tyler County. I'd been licensed 6 months, and guy was charged with 2 counts of aggravated robbery and escape, and I forget what else. And we tried that one for 3 weeks within 6 months of being out of law school. Got a hung jury and had to come right back the next month to try it again.
Oh wow,
my word!
Trial by fire for you.
Yeah. Yes. And he ended up getting the second time around. He ended up getting life, 10 years, and $30,000. I think they couldn't give him another day or another dollar. And I was just like,
he got it all.
Well, that was kind of like a eye-opening experience. You go from being a hung jury, right? That they can't make a decision on guilt or innocence to, you're guilty and we're going to give you everything that we got. And we thought, my whole staff and everybody, we thought we did a better job the second time around, but the jury didn't apparently.
No.
So you've been practicing. You've been serving the law for a quarter of a century plus. Through that time, and especially
let me write that down. I'm gonna put that.
It's documented.
Let me write that for an advertisement later on. Okay.
So through that early part of your practice, were there any people who came along and mentored you? that took you under their wing and kind
Oh
of
man,
help bring you up and help you mature as a man, as a lawyer, all that together?
well, let me say this. I have been fortunate, and I've told people publicly, and I'll say it again. I was fortunate to have two fathers and two mothers. And when I say that, is my brother and sister both acted as parents to me.
Okay.
Not in the, Troy, don't do that. I guess they did a certain amount of that, but as far as the uplifting of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And still to this day, I can call upon either one of them for any sort of trying situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say that certainly them. My parents, while they were living, certainly did. But as far as professionally, there was a lawyer that I have to say, more than any other, there was a lawyer in Lumberton, still living, Ken Furlow.
Okay.
And Ken and I had a special bond. And again, that's for another show, I suppose, but we had a special bond. And I remember calling him and saying, Ken, I've got to do this deed. I didn't have nobody I was working with. I got to do this deed. Can you look at this deed that I prepared? And I remember how nice Ken would be when it was the most simplest of things, like some paragraph within a deed.
Right.
How nice he was to teach me and to tell me, no, you got it wrong. Right. And he always looked. But then again, I got to say this too, that and maybe I should go back, Robbie, and write all this down. I still see lawyers walking around that I had called and said, look, I need help.
And they just helped you.
During that trial I was telling you about, there's a dear friend of mine, and what a great lawyer he's always been, Brack Jones, and Sonny Cribbs back when he was living. I was in the middle of that trial, and I cannot remember what it was, but it was either I was trying to get evidence in or wanted to keep evidence out. And I just didn't know what the answer was, and it was complex. So I had done as much research as I could during the break, and I called them on a cell phone. They were in Houston. Now, this is back when cell phones were in their infancy, right? They were in Houston.
You had a briefcase phone? Is that what it was?
It was
back phone.
I held it up on my, my ear. Anyway, yeah. They were at some continuing education course in Houston or Austin or somewhere, and they happened to be together. And they pulled over on the side of the highway so that they could keep a connection with me. And those two guys talked to me for about 30 minutes sitting on the side of like 59 or something. Can you imagine? And talked me through it. And, of course, I could hear them talking back and forth. But wait, if he does this, well, do this. What about on appeal? And it was just like a master's class. And I'm thinking, I shouldn't be practicing law, listening to those two guys.
Wow.
It was unbelievable. But they got me through it. And 500 times after that, those guys and others, it's just I guess doctors do it, accountants do it.
Yeah, everybody does it. That's amazing. I love that story.
I do too.
And you talked about writing it down, but you just documented it. And after we release the episode, you can share this with whoever you want.
Well, there's a number of others, but there was a young man that I'll say this. And it's not really a paying it forward sort of thing, but I hope it's in my nature. Let me just say that for anybody that wants to throw a rock at me, I hope it's in my nature. But there was a young man that I drafted every year in Little League. We were talking about Little League earlier. Yep. And I drafted him and his brother because, wow, what a great kid. What a great young man, respectful, if I put him on the mound and he gave me 3 innings, and that was all he had, he'd say, "Coach, I'll give you another one if you need it." I mean, he was that sort of kid. His name is Jake Wheeler. And I'm sitting in court one day in the jury box as we do. We were in criminal court, and I look up, and there this young man is. He's a lawyer. And
wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I've had the privilege of watching his career grow.
Nice.
I have mediated several cases for him. And it's interesting that you go from being like a little league coach, right?
Right.
And I keep telling him, don't call me sir. We are equals. You don't have to call me, but he's such a good guy.
Yeah.
He's always yes sir, yes sir.
This is the South, man. We call each other.
Yeah,
that's
sir.
right.
But
That
yeah,
is
so
special.
so I try to at least pay back some, which I'll never get there, but some of what others have done, and I certainly Brack and Sonny were so kind to me that day, and I don't remember the outcome. I just know that I had a sense of comfort from being extremely worried, because you know what you do in trial may affect you on appeal, right? And certainly I don't want to do anything that would affect somebody's constitutional rights later on. So so I felt comforted by their help.
Well, that's amazing. And you point out something that we talk about in our practice a lot. Success of any kind is too big to accomplish alone.
Right.
Any person, male, female, in any profession who achieves and attains any amount of true success could not have done it alone. No such thing as a self-made success.
Right.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I'm going to tell you another story, and tell me when I start to bore y'all, but I went to law school with a guy named Harold Dutton, and Harold was in the legislature.
Okay.
They're from Houston. I'm not sure what district he represented, but a great guy. He was just a really easy to get to know and talk to guy. And so one day he and I were having a conversation, and between classes, and I don't know what brought it up, but somehow we started talking about Barbara Jordan and Mickey Leland and, some others there in Houston, and him. People that's had international impacts on society, right? And I was like, Harold, who influenced y'all? And I don't remember, but it was a small enough area, maybe the size from Bayou Creek, but it was a small enough area to where I thought that it wasn't like you were raised in Houston and somebody else was raised in Tyler. I mean, this was in who influenced you? And he said, well, there were a number of people along the way, and he mentioned a couple of people, but he and I come to the conclusion, I believe, and I don't want to put words in Harold's mouth, but he and I had come to the conclusion that it could have been someone sitting on a porch that when they were kids walking along say, you kids stop acting up, y'all stay in school. It could have been something that simple. It could have been a Sunday school teacher.
Right.
It could have been a school teacher. It could have just been someone, a little league coach.
Yeah.
Right. But and they'll never know the impact that they had. And that was kind of what the conclusion of that conversation was. Harold and I, come to is that, and you don't do it alone. You're born, somebody feeds you, somebody, cares for you, somebody educates you, somebody loves you,
That's right.
and these little things in life help shape you. And you're exactly right. And I just hate that, oh, he is a self-made man sort of comment. That is absolutely an incorrect statement.
Right.
That's right.
Right. Yeah,
That's
we're all
very good.
three of us, and many of that are our viewers are benefactors of a system that is age old. When I say age old, as old as mankind.
Right.
And it's just been evolving this whole time, but definitely even in recent, decades to centuries. And the university was there, and other interested people have come before. And so, and like I said, I didn't invent baseball,
That's
When
right.
I first became
That's
a
right.
basketball coach, that's what my cousin told me. He was like your brother, he's a few years ahead. He said, you're not going to reinvent the game. You're just going to repeat and improve on what's already been done.
That's right.
He said, and it's not even about the game. It's about the players.
That's
He
right.
said, when you make it about the players, the game will take care of itself.
That's right.
Yes.
And I ended up going to coaching clinics, and they kind of said what he said. And I thought, okay, now it's starting to make sense,
Right.
And here we sit,
But I'll tell you one other thing too, is that even those people that are negative to you teach you,
That's right.
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
They either teach you, I don't want to act that way. I don't want to be that way. It teaches you sympathy for them, maybe empathy for them.
Yeah.
Bless their heart, what's going on in their life.
Right.
So every experience that you have helps, water the flower, so to speak,
Right.
or the crop.
Right.
And so both positive and negative experiences and people along the way.
Good point.
So if you had to go back again, let's say we take you back down to 13 years old, would you take the same path?
I would probably, to start with, try to be a quarterback, and I would try out for the Cowboys. So, but I digress for a moment.
You don't want to win? I'm kidding.
So I digress just for a moment. That's Robbie Martin Lumberton.
I have no football knowledge, to speak of.
No, but I suppose I would.
But we can definitely read a box score.
Yeah.
It's not this year.
Yeah. No, I probably would. I think that there's a couple of things. Somebody just deciding to knock on your door. But I think I probably would, with this exception. I think that I would focus more on certain aspects of my education.
Okay.
I think to make things easier. And I'm waiting for you to, you notice he hadn't got into this subject of my novel yet, so I'm waiting for him to broach. So I'm gonna have to do it myself.
You may
Right?
have to.
We'll
You
get
may
there.
have to.
You can if you want to.
Yeah.
But no, there's certain things that I think that I would focus more on. Lawyers are writers, we write pleadings all the time. We're writing a number of things.
Okay.
And so I think I would focus more on writing from an early age.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a fair thing to say.
Yeah.
I like that.
To be more of a master of the word, I guess.
That's
What I
right.
like about your response, and I believe our audience will notice this as well, is that you didn't illustrate any regrets about your life or your chosen profession. All you say is that you wish you might have perfected the early parts of your craft a little better, or added to your arsenal of abilities to enter into that craft.
Yeah.
You have no regrets about your chosen craft.
I don't.
That's awesome.
There
I love
was
that.
a time in my life, Robbie, that I couldn't buy a steak if I wanted to. And I can tell you now that it's been long since past that, I've got something that I can sell today to buy a steak. And there was a time when I didn't even have anything to sell. Right. So I can't complain, but I would say this along those lines, though, that, in our society, we say you can be anything that you want to be, right? And you certainly need goals. You need a goal. I want to be a mechanic, or I want to be a carpenter, or I want to be
a lawyer.
Any of these things are noble, and they fit into, our society. But I think one of the things that we need to teach young people is to be patient. To be patient, it will come. To learn as you go along, whatever you're doing. I look back in my experiences of having to work, going through school. I say, wow, I learned something there.
Yeah.
Right. I learned something there. And so to be patient, you got to have goals, but also be pliable enough to where life can mold you right along the way. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not sure, right? I think I was pliable enough that if somebody would have come along and said, hey, Troy, when you get out of law school, we have this other totally different career that has nothing to do with the law, right? I might have gone that direction, but to be open, as you go along, learn as you go along, and be patient, and let life mold you, right?
Yeah, that's really.
I don't know if that means anything.
No, I love it.
Yeah. So speaking of learning, would you say that you learned more from failure or success?
Well,
along the way.
I don't know. I need to look this up. I do not know what the definition of wisdom is, right? I don't know the textbook definition, but I've always thought that wisdom came from negative experiences, right? That, you get smart when you stand in a fire ant bed, right? And you get bit. Don't do that no more, right?
Right.
Don't, you're going to get bit,
Right.
And so I would think now, I suppose someone could come back and say, well, that's also true for positive things. But most of the time when you think, when I think in terms of wisdom, it's someone that has been through life and has been beat up and scarred and bruised up through life. Right. And they learn, even an old hound can learn from, bad experiences.
Right. From that overcoming aspect.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
That's right.
So are you a success?
I hope so. Robbie, I look back and I've had a number of successful results for my clients. I feel like I've had a number of successful moments personally. But every morning, for decades now, I try to find, weather permitting, I sit out on my porch, but I try to find 10 or 15 minutes to think about me, not in an egotistical way, but to think about what would I change, right? What do I need to do? What are my goals and dreams later in life? And so I think I'm a work in progress, and I don't know if I can say I'm a success. All I can say is I try very hard. Right?
You're not finished.
I'm not finished.
I love that.
So, and I'll let others either embellish the story or tell the truth or whatever, at some point. But all I know is that I spend that time, and I would encourage people to do that, is to spend 10, 15, 20 minutes in the morning or whenever you can find a quiet time. Sometimes mentally I can't handle it, and so I just count my squirrels in my yard, or I watch the bird feeding its, young. But yeah, I think that's an ongoing question that we can't really answer right now.
So if you could put something to this, give a thought about what is your legacy? What are you?
Oh, wow.
What mark are you leaving on your profession, on your life, on your community? What is it about Troy that once you're gone and they're talking about you at your funeral or whatever celebration there is to talk about your life, what will your legacy be talked about?
I really don't know. And, I guess it goes back to, and I heard a preacher one time talk about what should be on his tombstone, right? And I'm almost positive it was his tombstone he was talking about. And so I know what I would like my legacy to be.
Well, what is it?
I would like that my legacy to be hard work, caring for humanity, his fellow man, that he, that I was willing to give a helping hand to someone in need, because all of these things I need, right, through life, that I loved, unconditionally, that I gave my children all that I could and more, and my grandchildren now. Just these theoretical things that I just don't know. I just don't know what the legacy would be. That's what I would hope it would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I would hope that on my marker, somebody would have to write so small, right? And be, you know, 3 or 4 paragraphs of what my legacy, but, you know, it may just be one word. What a jerk, you know, or I don't know. I'm still working at it, you know.
Right.
See, that hyphen has a lot of meaning.
Yeah.
You know, the hyphen between
Yeah.
the born date and the deceased
Yeah.
date.
Yeah.
That hyphen, big.
Yeah. So if they just put, you know, Troy Soileau, born, died, well, then, you know, well, he didn't do too good in the final analysis, you know. So,
Well,
we don't want to be a miss of an opportunity here. So you have this novel you're working on.
I'm working on this novel.
And
thank you very much.
You're welcome. And obviously that is you know, from your head and your heart and your experiences, and also it maybe in most novels have an intent of influence. And so what are you writing about and where do you want it to go?
Well, as I told you, it's a historical fiction of East Texas,
okay,
right? And there's a lot of pain that goes along with that, right? In America, there's, you know, you pick any community, there's a lot of pain that goes along with, you know, historically analyzing that. Mm-hmm. What we did with the Native Americans and what we did with those that we enslaved, and, you know, Jim Crow and all the things that we've done, you know, I guess theoretically in the name of what we call progress, you know, right? And but there's been a lot of advancements made. There's a lot of hurt and injury, and you know, we've, you know, our society, we've sent men and women to war, mm-hmm. you know, and so I want to discuss all those things. And certainly in the end, I hope that someone would read it. I guess my ultimate goal, someone would read it and say, I never thought about that.
Okay.
Or there's a better way, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Or not that I'm far from the one that should be teaching anybody anything, right? But I guess if there was a goal, I would want someone to say, there's a better way. I never thought about that. That's interesting. You know, let me ponder that in my 15 or 20 minutes a day, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. So you've heard part of it, yes. right? I try to write it interesting, you know, where people will actually read more than 10 pages of it, you know, before they throw it away. But there's poetry in there, and there's some thought-provoking things, I hope, you know.
Good. Well, we were getting to that.
Okay.
The way I was going to bring the book in was that, you know, this show illustrates a lot of different forms of success mm-hmm. and personal reinvention. And this, to the way I understand it, is another incarnation of your personal reinvention and growth. As you mentioned that you'd have studied writing more.
I would have, yeah.
And here's how you're showing that. You learn to be a writer through being an attorney. Well,
yeah,
now
self-preservation. Yeah.
Well, now you're applying that skill and the wisdom that you acquired through your more than a quarter century of practice. You're applying that into writing a novel. And I will venture a guess. Now, for those of you out there in the audience, I have heard some excerpts from the book, and it is well written. It is attractive. It is attention getting. It does hold your attention, and it's memorable.
Thank you.
So it's going to be a fun read. So when it comes out, y'all make sure and get you a copy. But I venture a guess that had you not had that experience of being an attorney, you would not be able to write so well.
Oh, you know, people have asked me that have read it, said, I guess because they know me mm-hmm. and they know my accent, you know, which is unusual. I've been told. I think everybody else has one, but they say mine is unusual. So I think what happens is those people that really know me, that really love me and care about me, they, as they're reading it, they kind of get my voice, you know what I'm saying, and my my tone and my accent as they're reading. And so that leads them to the question, are you writing about yourself? And no, I'm not. There's nothing in the book that is a personal experience that I want to disguise and, let me write about this. And, then years later, when I'm 90 years old, I'll divulge the truth. There's nothing like that. This story has come to me over about 30 years. I've thought about it and the characters, and it just got to a point to where I was thinking about it so long that I had to put it on paper in order to get it out so I wouldn't think about it. But getting back to the is the story about you, there are a lot of life experiences that you just know that you can't avoid, right?
Right.
I mean, so, I've heard about people in the way they lived in East Texas and the company store and the company money. So, yes, I've heard about those things, right? It's not about me, but there is part of what you are as a person that comes out, at least in my experience, when you write like that.
Absolutely.
So there is, I don't want to give it away, but there is something that may be legally situated in the end. And so certainly my experiences as a lawyer, making an objection in court may have
Well, something I've noticed about it is there's relatable experiences throughout the book. And that's what I call well written, when you can put yourself in the circumstance in your imagination and you can feel the feeling that's meant to be invoked, or at least you have your own interpretation of it. And I think that lends itself to being well written.
Have this weave of regional historical experiences, personal experiences, even landmarks, towns and highways that people will recognize, even familiar practices, probably, what people typically do and say at certain times and where they typically go in small towns. And I think people are going to really relate to that for sure.
I know what it's like to go to the creek and go swimming and go fishing, right? And so if I were to write about that, I know what that experience is like. Now the story may be different, but I know, I know about the stickers that you're going to get on your foot walking down to the creek.
I ain't joking. I know all about that myself. So I'm going to venture a guess with pretty fair confidence that once this one's complete, you're going to write another one.
I don't know.
Well, I'm going to say that you most likely are. Having listened to you read what you've written, understanding and hearing the passion that comes from you when you read it, I think that one book won't be enough. That's going to be my prediction, and I made it right here, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll see what happens from Troy D. Soileau. But I believe his works as an author will be far more than one.
I got to feel it. I'm going to have to feel it. I felt this, and like I said, I don't know how to, my old English teachers would probably flunk me on it, but if I can guilt 100 people into buying a copy of it, then it's a success. And
well, I'll tell you what, man.
And if another story comes to me, who knows?
I've read a lot of books that an English teacher would have failed, and they sold millions of copies. So I don't think that's
so. There's hope for us dummies anyway, right?
Yeah, I don't think that's the measure for success in the book reading and selling world. So, do you consider yourself a leader?
I hope to be.
Okay.
I hope to be.
What's it mean to be a leader?
I think someone that's willing to take on the hard work, make a stand, someone that is not worried about pleasing others, but making a moral, ethical commitment, I don't think there's that guy's a born leader necessarily. I think it's just something deep down in the individual that says, "Hey, I'm willing to be the one to stand." Right? To me,
there's a famous book that I've been very involved in, and one of the quotes from that book is, "This man goes to a town and he says, well, how many leaders were born here? How many famous leaders were born here?" He's asking that of I think it's a hospital administrator, or maybe it's the ward at the hospital the maternity ward? And the answer is none, just babies.
Yeah.
Because they're not born leaders.
That's
They're
right.
made into leaders
That's
through
right.
life, through experience and
Right.
convictions.
That's right.
So that was a great answer.
So I think too, Robbie, that there are people that are thrown into situations where they have to lead.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
And I think about my grandfather that was in the second wave at Normandy, and he survived it. He survived the war. He was injured severely twice, and they put him back on the front lines. And, you know, our family story, my other grandpa was in the Navy during World War II. And you got all these family stories of war and pain and struggle.
Right.
But somebody had to be a leader. Maybe him, maybe everybody was a leader to get off that beach.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
That's
Right.
right.
In some way, somebody had to be the leader.
Right.
Somebody had to be the leader to say, it's a tough job, but we got to get through these hedgerows.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that's kind of extreme, but
That's well put.
even in a community, you know, somebody's got to stand up and say, we need a new school building.
That's right.
Right.
Absolutely.
You know,
It has to happen from time to time.
you know,
But that is definitely a testament to our military and what they figured out over the centuries, and maybe other militaries, but nothing like the American military. Is we train down to the lowest one at any given time. You may have to take over.
that's
You know,
right.
everybody
That's
that you look ahead maybe with bars and stars. Well, if they're not there, it's you.
Yeah.
And it's you and the 2 or 3 guys next to you, and they can do it, and they've done it many a time.
Right.
You know, your grandfather could probably tell stories of being in going through towns and other areas, and said, well, just me and us. And so one of us just said, hey, I'll take over, and we just kind of naturally,
Or even just by looking,
Yeah.
just by looking and seeing somebody and seeing some momentary courage, right?
right.
And saying, okay, I'm gonna follow that.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So you never know. Nobody may ever tell you that you're a leader at any particular moment.
Right.
I guess is what I'm saying.
Right.
You may just become one.
Yes.
Yeah, or that moment in time, that 10 seconds, that 30 minutes, you may lead. Nobody may ever define you as a leader, but you may lead others to
Right.
forward.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Troy, this has been an amazing interview.
I hope so. I've
it. I
enjoyed
hope
it.
our audience has enjoyed it. We're drawing to a close now. I've got 2 questions that I'm going to close with, but Chuck,
Oh
before
Lord,
I
here
do,
it
do you
comes.
have any?
I'm gonna leave the last 2 questions to Robbie, but there's more of a comment or compliment. I appreciate your story, and I appreciate what you've done with your opportunities, going back to some of those finally settling in your childhood in Lumberton, and then looking around and saying, I have opportunity right here. I have a great family, good friends, I have all these different things to get involved in. You didn't shy away from any of it, including taking your the quality of your skills and pushing it to the level that you have to now a quarter-century career and all of the neat things that you've been able to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate.
And ladies and gentlemen, take the square root of what he's saying. You might get close to the truth.
No, sir. No, I just appreciate that. It was a good
Thank
invite. Robbie nailed it on that one. To
Thank
bring someone in to because we're a show of influence. And we're trying to influence young people. And those questions that you're about to get will give you a chance to do that, I believe. But anyway, just appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you for all of it.
Well, you've done very well so far.
Okay.
So the last 2 questions. The last 2
Yeah.
questions.
I'm waiting.
I'm kidding. Well, first, before I do, are there any questions you might have?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
And is there anything we haven't asked that we should have?
Well, there's a lot of things. We'll go back to that 4-hour podcast later.
Okay.
And we'll cover
Very
those
good.
things. But
Yes.
I have a lot to say, matter of fact.
Right. Tune in for the half day.
That's
episode.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
The first of my last 2 questions is, if someone wanted to follow in your footsteps, what advice would you have for them?
I think I said it before, is never give up. If the score is 99-0 and it's the last minute of the 4th quarter, never give up. You might win. Probabilities you won't, but never give up. And so I think that would be the first thing that I would say.
That's good.
And the second thing I would say is to not be so focused on your goals that you forget to, look at the beautiful springtime or the moon at night, or, to cherish the moments looking into a child's face when they're happy, or, those moments when, you look back and you go, man, I wish I had more time, so don't give up, be pliable, at the same time. You got to have goals, but certainly live in the moment as well.
Don't miss out on the now, looking for what's next.
That's right. That's right.
That's good.
And
That's
you
good stuff.
you can balance all of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can, even if you're in Marine Corps boot camp, you can balance that.
That's right.
And find time to smile and be happy and improve someone else's life.
Yes.
I hope I do, but I know I don't always. But
no, that was good. That was good. All we can do is aspire to those type of things. But you did. That's a great answer.
Yeah.
So my final question is: if you could go back in time and you could pour some wisdom into your own ear early on in your life, give yourself some advice. Let's say the 16, 17-year-old you. What would you say to yourself?
That there will come a time, if you're blessed, that the end of your life is imminent. If you're blessed, that that I'm at the end, it's coming. The next 30 minutes, hour, the next 6 months. What would you be worried about at that particular moment in your life? That's what you need to be focused on. And so if, for example, if someone told you you got 30 minutes to live, would you be worried about wealth? Would you be worried about your clothes? Would you be worried about, all of these things that we tend to worry about? Would you really care that you have accumulated all these toys and, or would you be worried about more important things that we talked about here today?
Yes.
My legacy. Did I do enough for the world? Did I do enough for my family? Did I do, so if I had to tell that 16-year-old kid that you're talking about, I think that I would focus on something like that, is to tell them,
it's not just a 16-year-old kid. This is 16-year-old you.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that I'd say, hey, there's going to come a time, there's going to come an end to your life.
Yes.
What would you be focused on? That's what you need to live your life, expecting.
Yes.
Right?
Does
that makes any sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Makes great sense.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, thank you so much
Well,
for
thank
being
y'all.
our guest today. Is there a parting message you'd like to send out to the audience? There's no requirement, but if you'd like to, you're welcome.
No, I've already kind of made some, cowboy comments.
No.
So we don't get my parting message, maybe. Mr. Jones, we have a few things we want to say, but we'll say he can call me. My cell phone's out there. He can call me.
Very good. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for joining us today for another episode of Pursuit of Purpose. Thank you for allowing us to become a part of the pursuit of your purpose. I'm Rob. This is Chuck. And we've had with us today
Troy Soileau.
And we hope to see you again. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel and tune in for more great content. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Good job.
In pursuit of your